Hello and welcome, everybody. We are here again with your golden ticket to success, freedom, and happiness. Maria Kay here with you, and I have the amazing Susan Reeve with me today. And she's an author. She's had 35 years of experience as a coach, a corporate consultant, an interfaith minister, and she works all over the world and has also written some great books. Go and check them out. They'll all be, listed for you. One of them being The Inspired Life, Unleashing Your Mind's Capacity for Joy. So that's the latest book. So I'm going to hand straight over to Susan and say welcome.
Thank you, Maria. It's so great and such an honor to be here with you today.
Oh, likewise to have you. So I'm really eager to get stuck in and just extract as much of your insight, as your experience and your knowledge to share with our audience today as much as possible. So could you share with us perhaps a series of events or situations or poignant moments in your life that you feel perhaps took place over the years that has shaped who you are today as a person, but also in the work that you do?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is that when I was a teen, I wrote in my journal, what would the world be like if everybody loved themselves? Now, at that point, I wasn't feeling a lot of love for myself. I was a teenager. I was awkward. My body was changing. I was uncomfortable around boys. I was very aware of whether or not I fit in. So in retrospect, that question that I wrote in my journal has really created the path that I've taken in my life, although I certainly didn't know it then. Another major turning point is that when I was in my early 20s, my oldest sister passed away within a 2-week period, and a few years later, within a 6-week period, my dad, after being diagnosed with lung cancer, died. And what I learned through that experience is that life can change in the snap of a finger, and that it's really crucial to feast on life, to appreciate the gifts, to move through the self-doubt, the self-criticism, the taking everything personally that had been so much a part of my life. And then my journey, one of the things that I've been really fortunate about is from the time I was in my early 20s, I did counseling, I did therapy, I did coaching before it was called coaching. And I got to hear the stories, the inner experience of thousands of people. And what became so clear to me is that our relationship with ourself, our self-esteem, forms the blueprint for all of the relationships in our life. And that has really been the focus of my work, whether in corporate settings, whether in individual retreats, whether in the group work that I do. That this belief that if I'm at war within me, if I'm judgmental about myself as my default, it's going to be impossible for me to experience peace and happiness over the long run.
Lovely, thank you. Could you perhaps give us a little bit of insight, your personal insight, let's say, as to, because you mentioned self-esteem there, and I think it's one that a lot of people, me included, have had to really look at in our life. Could you kind of talk us through how you feel that self-esteem, or lack of it perhaps, is connected to our love and money story, perhaps?
Absolutely. You know, self-esteem, healthy, vibrant, vital self-esteem is based on the thoughts that we have about ourselves, what the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And, you know, low self-esteem relates to a whole variety of beliefs that are really based on I'm not enough. So if I believe that I'm not deserving, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not valuable, that I'm not capable, that's going to play itself out in the arena of relationships. It's going to be difficult for me to receive love because deeply inside of me, I believe I'm not lovable, or I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not thin enough, or young enough, or tall enough, or wealthy enough. And so it's going to be very hard for me to truly embrace the riches, whether that is financial prosperity or abundance, or whether that is the riches in friendship, in love relationships, in family. And so if we think about it, our self-esteem forms the blueprint for what we're able to receive. So when I believe I'm not worthy of love, and I was married when I was quite young, and also divorced 9 years later, and what I discovered years after that divorce is that I didn't love me. So it was really difficult for me to accept the love of my husband. It was as if he always gave it at the wrong time, or didn't say it the right way, or if he really loved me, he would know what I was feeling, he would know what I was thinking. There were such unrealistic expectations about relationships and about marriage. And so the starting place for prosperity in our lives, for greater health in our lives, whether that's physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, and for our relationships and for the work that we're doing in the world, really starts with our honoring, acknowledging our personal gifts, talents, and skills.
Oh, I love that. I'm interested to know, and I'd love you to share with our audience, that you've got a brilliant awareness there of kind of what perhaps didn't pan out so well in your life that brought up to the surface. Okay, marriage didn't go so well. I'm looking at my self-esteem issue there, and you've been able to go in perhaps and, you know, rewire it, change your thought processes, maybe heal as well. What would you say to anyone in our audience who perhaps hasn't had success in those different arenas, you know, of health, relationships, and perhaps, you know, money, prosperity, and career, that doesn't quite know why yet, hasn't had the inclination or opportunity to go back and understand a little bit deeper? What kind of suggestion would you have for them?
Sure. One of the things is that we want to get underneath to see what are the beliefs, what's the programming that is running me. And a fabulous way to do that is to become aware of our feelings, particularly the sensations in our body. So let's focus on the area of relationships. This is an example. It's really the same process for any particular arena of our life. And let's say you're single and really want to be in a relationship, and you notice that you're having this hopeless feeling about it. It's never going to work for me. And so something to do, and this is a written exercise, is to write down when I am feeling and give the emotional name of the feeling. So in this case, hopeless. And also give the physical name to the feeling. Emptiness in my stomach, palpitations in my heart. Just really get connected with your body. So when I'm feeling, I am believing. And write down whatever comes to your mind. I am believing about myself. This is in relation to relationships. I am believing about myself in relation to relationships. I am believing about others. If your relationship is with a man, I'm believing about men. If your relationship is with a woman, I'm believing about women. And what do you believe about life? To begin to take a look at, do these beliefs support the life that I want to live? Because if I don't have the programming within me to support my vision for a loving relationship, it's going to be next to impossible to sustain a loving relationship, to allow the love in, and then to navigate the rough waters that are a natural part of relationships. And then it's the same with finances. You know, what are your beliefs? And some of which you've learned from your parents, from significant others in your life. What are the beliefs that you have about your value? If I believe, and I personally believed this for a few decades, I believed that anybody could do the work that I do, that it was nothing special, it was no big deal. And I really didn't value, not that I'm better than everyone else, but if I don't value my gifts, then it's going to be really difficult for me to charge for it. It's going to be really difficult for me to be clear about what I have to offer and how it can be of value to you. Does that seem helpful?
Oh, absolutely. I'm interested to know, once you began to really understand, well, we'll stick with that same example that, you know, your level of self-esteem wasn't helpful to you achieving successful relationships or fulfilling relationships. What were the first steps that you put into place? How did you practically, you know, aside from looking very closely at your belief patterns, was there anything else that you applied that could possibly be helpful for our audience today?
Yeah, I did a year-long daily ritual, and I continue to do pieces of it now. And this has been for almost 20 years. And it started with reading inspiring words. In the morning, I do this sitting up in my bed, reading inspiring words, meditating for 20 minutes, writing, sometimes writing an affirmation, and notice what came up that was either supportive of the affirmation or was at odds with the affirmation. I use visualization techniques, and I got down on my knees and I prayed for help. And I took that time to connect with me. And there is a qualitative difference in my life. In the mornings, I meditate for 20 minutes. And my practice these days is, right now I'm reading the poetry of a fabulous poet named Mark Nepo. I'm going through a book of his called Reduced to Joy. And then I meditate for 20 minutes. And then I write. And sometimes I write what I want to accomplish that day. Sometimes I write an affirmation regarding my being open to be a mighty expression of love in the world, to be, give, and to receive love. And I want to be really clear about this. I am not walking on water every moment in terms of relationships. Is that I bump up against those old beliefs, and I see them as opportunities to evolve those beliefs, to expand my thinking. So rather than, oh, nothing ever works for me, no matter what I do, he doesn't understand me, he's not supportive of me, whatever may come up. You know, I may initially be annoyed, and as soon as I get in touch with me, I use that as an opportunity to refocus. It's like a growing pain. It's my leading edge. So I want to be very clear, this is a journey because we are constantly expanding. It's not never going to feel lousy again.
I was going to ask you that because very often people in our audience don't get to hear the reality of what it is like to be on a journey, especially if they're at the beginning stages of it and they've just woken up to new possibilities or a new way of life. So thank you for being honest and sharing that, because I think at the beginning of my journey, it was what was missing, because all you ever see is positivity and the high points, and it can be quite disheartening when you're having a low day and you feel quite alone and quite almost dysfunctional. So I think it's really important that people like yourself and myself share our lows as well as our highs. So what did you ever feel like giving up? Did you ever sort of say, well, this is way too hard, I don't want to do this anymore? Was there ever a moment?
Yes, yes. This past winter was a really dark time for me. I was writing a new book that's coming out in November, The Wholehearted Life, and what seems to be my journey in writing is that I go through the process. So I went through the process of being brokenhearted, half-hearted, to completing the book and feeling wholehearted. And here's the importance of regular practice. I felt lousy. There's no question that I had many days of, I don't know if I have it in me to create a new chapter of my life. I don't know if I have it in me to really live into my next big dream. Because I have done what I call spiritual practice for so many years, I used that so I could at least acknowledge myself each day, even if I only meditated for 5 minutes. The reason to do spiritual practice or a self-esteem boosting ritual is because when we go down, when we spiral down the rabbit hole and feel like, oh, I thought I was finished with this, I can't believe I'm here again, it will occur to us sooner rather than later to use the tools. It may take some time for us to be built up again. What I know is that using the tools makes a difference. And one of the tools that I use when I'm spiraling down that rabbit hole is I make a list every day of 5 accomplishments. And I include on that list something that I call an accomplishment symbol. And that's something that I would do anyway. So for me, since 1982, my accomplishment symbol has been brushing my teeth. I can tell you that there are days that I've only gotten as far as putting the toothbrush under the water and holding it to my 2 front teeth. And I've associated that with a sense of accomplishment. And there's a momentum in accomplishment that helps us to move forward. And the other thing I have to say, and my guess is you know this from the work that you're doing, is I reach out to others who believe in me to remind me of who I am. So having vision keepers, friends who are supportive and don't get into the drama of the story are really crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think more and more people are tuning into the importance of surrounding themselves with high vibrational human beings, and absolutely. And I love your story about cleaning your teeth. It really does feel as though it's a gift for someone like yourself to be able to give that to our audience today and say, you know, we all have those days, we all have those moments or periods of time or seasons. Out of those dark moments, let's say, using quite a strong label there,
Yeah.
how would you feel? Because I know from my own experience, and I'm really interested to hear what yours would have been or continues to be, out of those low, moments where we perceive ourselves to be sort of maybe flawed or rock bottom or not so aligned or not feeling so in our bliss zone, how does it feel for you coming out the other end?
I mean, the word that comes to my mind is reborn.
Yeah.
There's an aliveness. There's a feasting on life. And each time I have a greater appreciation for those dark places. You know, if we consider life as a spiral, we have to spiral around all of it. And so I have been in the process for a number of years, actually, since The Inspired Life came out in 2011, in renaming that so that I see, here I am, bumped up against my edge. I mean, I was as recently as a week and a half ago. I'm dating again, which is an amazing thing at this time of my life. And somebody didn't call me, and I could feel my heart drop into my stomach. And as though I was a teenager. I'm far beyond being a teenager. And so I meditated, and I asked myself, even feeling this wrenching feeling in my belly, I asked myself, what belief that I'm having about me, not that he didn't call. That was just the trigger that allowed me to get to this place. And I had memories of high school and dating in college where I was disappointed. And because I personally have done so much inner work over the years, it was not a strong, oh, I have to revisit that and process it. I was at the place where it was as though the belief just came up and out. And I came out of that meditation feeling whole, feeling an alignment in my body, mind, and spirit, and trusting that we're not given a dream that can't be fulfilled.
I love that.
Have to upgrade the programming to fulfill that dream, for my part of that dream. But it's possible. There's a quote: if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it.
Absolutely, and I feel as though what you're describing there is on some kind of level could be described as freedom.
Exactly.
Personal freedom, because you experienced an uncomfortable feeling or revisited an uncomfortable sort of scenario that reignited, that reawoken some things for you from your past. But as, again, that sort of circular movement that we talk about, as it came back up for you, it was there, it still had, maybe brought up some discomfort, but the freedom comes in where you were able to maybe come out of it a lot quicker than you would have done in the past, and processed it. And I love how you talked about what belief do I have that has almost attracted that, or brought it on, so that I can almost, like you said, I think you used the word upgrade. I can upgrade my life, and I love that. Could you talk about that a bit more for us?
Yeah, we're born whole, and we learn the beliefs we have. We learn them from the significant people in our life, from the culture we're in. There are generational beliefs, and for most of us, the beliefs that we've learned have to do with I'm not enoughness. And again, I think an interesting version of I'm not enough is that I'm too much. That's also I'm not enough. And so what happens in our life is, as we're growing, particularly as a teen, I remember this, comparing ourselves to others, comparing ourselves to images in magazines, which is now becoming true for men as much as women. And then we're judging ourselves. So we consider what we call negative feelings bad and positive feelings good. And so if we have what's called a negative feeling, and really it's simply energy. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. But if we have a negative feeling like anger or resentment or jealousy, we then judge ourselves for that. And what that judgment does is it feeds the feeling. We use that as more food for I'm not enough. Whereas what feelings require, what these sensations require, is acknowledgement. And to stop telling the story of from out there of what somebody else did and return that first attention to ourselves, which is ultimately what's the programming, what are the beliefs that I have. Beliefs are simply thoughts charged with emotional energy, spoken of with authority, I am the author of them, and acted on with conviction. Acted on, conviction is faith, as if they're true. Because they're thoughts and they have an energetic vibration, we have the capacity to change them. It may not happen the first time we think a new thought. And if I notice I'm thinking a negative thought over and over again, rather than judging myself for thinking it, how about acknowledging myself for noticing it?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I think awareness is something that also brings freedom and empowerment into our life, because, as you say, once you've acknowledged it, you then have the opportunity to change it and make it different.
Yes.
Do you have any affirmations that our audience could jot down right now with regards to their own self-esteem that could help them, that they could implement right away?
Yeah. And so here's the first one that pops into my mind, and it's one that I use. I'm a mighty expression of love in the world.
Oh,
and that feels like too much of a leap, because I can tell you when that first came to my mind in 1986, and we were to express it in a group, I looked down, didn't have eye contact with anybody, and I said it very softly, because I didn't believe it about myself. And so it may be that it may be something, I like who I am. I value my gifts, talents, and skills. I am grateful for my generosity. So
you start small, start kind of, go a bit general, or with the easier things to sort of identify, and then increase from that. I'm also aware of the value of creating your own affirmations that come from that sort of inspired place, and I know that's not always easy for people. I work with a lot of people who need to be kind of given a blueprint to work with for the first part, and before they can start to create their own. So it's great that you've offered some examples there. Do you have any other messages for our audience? Anything that, say, for somebody who is feeling a little bit unfulfilled, a little bit disconnected in their life, and not sure why, doesn't even know perhaps which particular area, because in my experience, if we're unhappy or disconnected in one area, say a relationship, chances are we need to go in and look at the whole, to figure out and straighten things out. But for anyone who's still kind of very much in the dark and very unaware at this point, where can they start? How can they start to unpick the where?
Here's a question that I use on myself, and I love to work with my clients on it. And this may take more than one sitting down and writing, but create a quiet space for yourself, a sacred space for yourself. You may light a candle, you may not light a candle, but it's as if you have sacred work in progress on your door. And write down the question, who would I be, and what would I be doing if success was guaranteed? And explore that question. Not so much why you're not being successful in your life right now, because I can tell you why. It's about beliefs that you have about yourself and evidence that you've gathered over the years. And getting a clear vision of where you want to go, and it can take time to come up with that vision. So ask yourself, how long will it take for me to be clear? I ask myself that question all the time. And I hear sometimes, for one thing, for a big change I was making in my life many years ago, I heard a year. And so I took that year to explore what was next. And I experimented with a lot of different possibilities. And so that willingness to be with yourself, and when the so-called negative stuff comes up, write it down anyway. It's coming to the surface of your conscious awareness so you can make a choice about, does this belief serve me or not serve me? And the other thing to be aware of is this inner landscape can be scary territory. Because when we're feeling at a loss, we feel isolated, we feel separate, and we feel shame about what's going on in our life. And those are just the times that call for deep connection. So whether it starts with spiritual connection, whether it starts with a coach that you see, going to a workshop, reading a book that speaks to you deeply, but really using tools to address the brokenheartedness, keeping in mind that the gift of a broken heart allows the light of love from others to come in and ultimately allows our light to shine through.
Oh, I love that analogy. It's beautiful. Oh, delicious conversations. As we draw to a close, would you be able to answer just, or define perhaps in your own words, in a sentence, the word freedom?
It's self-acceptance. It's love. It's my arms up and saying, I am standing tall woman. And I make a difference. In everything I do, I have the opportunity to contribute love that moves through me. And it's a gift that we give ourselves when we unshackle our mind and our hearts.
Oh, I'm just going to take an energetic snapshot of that energy and those words. Oh, thank you so much. So I know that you have a beautiful gift for our audience today. Could you share information about that with them, please?
Yes, I have a great ebook that is filled with loads of exercises called How to Build Your Self-Esteem. And it's on the Self-Esteem Experts site, where there are worksheets and guided visualizations as well. So when you go to the link for the ebook, you can also explore the site that is filled with valuable information that you can begin to use right away, from understanding how your brain works to creating affirmations to creating visualizations, and really putting your relationship with yourself in the forefront of your life.
Oh, what a fantastic gift. Thank you on behalf of all our audience today. Just to end, would you be able to, just in a short sentence, highlight, because I know how important you deem self-esteem to be as almost the foundation of all areas of our life and the happiness, success and freedom that we do achieve in our life. How urgent is it for anyone who is still feeling unfulfilled or not in their bliss zone every single day of their life to work on, quote unquote, increasing and uplifting their own self-esteem?
It's absolutely crucial, because until we have a loving relationship with ourselves, outside circumstances, good outside circumstances, cannot be maintained because we don't have roots for them. Loving ourselves is the foundation of everything in our lives.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. On that note, I'm wishing you and our audience a beautiful, bliss-filled rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Maria.